Ready?
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, go.
A question I get asked a lot since beginning my study is, what is motion design? Motion design exists as an extension of graphic design, so where graphic design is limited to its toolset of typography, illustration, and layout, to name a few, motion design is also able to communicate via speed, movement, expands the ways in which motion design can connect and communicate with the audience. These extra tools are exactly why motion design is the answer to bridging the ever-expanding gap between consumer and product and revitalizing the advertising industry. One company harnessing the power of motion design in the business world is DemoDuck. DemoDuck are a USA-based company who create animated videos for businesses such as Netflix. Their brand relies on the ability to connect consumer to product, and their video for Crazy Egg did just that, increasing the company's monthly revenue by $21,000. DemoDuck puts the high demand for animated explainer videos down to every company needing to communicate with customers in a way that people are willing and interested in listening to. A designer who excels at using motion to connect consumer to a product is Shane Griffin. Shane is a motion designer who has worked with brands such as Apple, Louis Vuitton, and Nike. His latest work for Nike included creating an ad for their new React shoe. Shane combines 3D animation and photography with an upbeat soundtrack to create a perfect example of how to explain and engage a consumer. 3D animation is used to illustrate the base of the shoe as a variety of materials, from footballs to a goal net, AstroTurf, and training cones. These elements are bouncing fluidly, inserted in a coloured grid above live footage of the shoe. Immediately, the choice of materials inform the consumer of the versatility of this shoe, showing the wide range of activities it can be used for. The motion of the materials is also vital. React foam is Nike's latest invention and a main selling point of the React shoe. Nike themselves describe the foam as cushioning, energy returning, and lightweight. Shane has perfectly encapsulated this information in visual form by showing the materials fluidly bouncing up and down whilst the shoe itself remains still. The use of a white background also avoids the consumer suffering from cognitive overload, instead giving them the chance to focus on the two most important elements, the shoe and the foam. Through Shane's work, the consumer is given all this information within 16 seconds, all whilst remaining engaged and entertained. With influencer advertisements, shrinking attention spans, and a distrust of corporations, it has become vital to quickly and effectively. Semiotics, as explained by Eli Samuel, are the study of the relationship between subversive meanings, their interpretations, and our own intent. Semiotics require two elements. They must have a signifier and a signified meaning. The signifier can be a colour, a font, a sound, a shape, or even a story. And the signified is the meaning which is interpreted by the viewer. And semiotics are everywhere. They are in road signs, advertisements, logos, and films. Semiotics are vital to storytelling within media and advertising due to their ability to enhance the connection between consumer and product. One company that is harnessing the power of communicating through signs, symbols, and hidden meanings is Nike. Nike's brand name itself is a semiotic. The company named itself after the Greek goddess of victory. By doing so, the company is creating a belief within the consumer that Nike means victory. This interpretation then leads to more positive consumer behaviour, such as purchasing products. Nike's logo is another example of the excellent use of semiotics. When Nike was founded in 1972, designer Carolyn Davidson created the now iconic swoosh logo for only $2 an hour. Phil Knight asked for a logo that represented speed and fluidity of movement. It's believed the logo is also loosely based on the wings of Nike, the Greek goddess. Despite some initial pushback from the founders Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, the swoosh became Nike's logo. As the symbol is not representative of a literal object, the consumer is left to interpret its meaning. The shape has characteristics that also help hint the viewer in the right direction. The sharp corners and stretched tail give a feeling of movement and acceleration. The shape is streamlined, trim, and agile. The logo's name, swoosh, is also an onomatopoeia of the sound of speed and agility. In this example, the shape itself, or the sound, is the signifier. This is what's doing the communicating. The signified is the customer's interpretation, gained from the shape, of speed and movement. Nike has switched between different colour schemes throughout the years, however their main three colours have been black, white and red. Black and white are obvious choices for their timelessness, simplicity and sleek aesthetic. When red is used in advertising, the consumer often interprets it as powerful, passionate and aggressive, all traits that are synonymous with athleticism. If Nike were to simply tell customers that their shoes will make them run 20 times faster, no one would believe it. Instead, they harness the power of semiotics by incorporating strong signs and symbols of victory, agility, and speed through shapes, words, and sounds. This leads the consumers to the belief that Nike itself is synonymous with these values. This deeper connection then creates larger brand recognition and customer confidence. The success and longevity of both Nike and its branding is a testament to the power of semiotics in branding. By using signs to point the audience in a specific direction, you open up a new, personalized line of communication with consumers. This means they tailor-make their own experience with your brand, not just having a story told to them, but being part of the story's creation. Typography was born through a need to communicate as early as 3500 BC, be it through letters, numbers, hieroglyphics, or art. However, slowly, typography has evolved to become more than just a written language. Type can be used as a graphical element, or a graphical element can be used to create type. You could use type as a form, or use different typefaces to communicate to different audiences. One of the first design styles to really harness the extra capabilities of typography was Swiss design, also known as International Typographic Style. Swiss design is minimal, objective, and functional. Common elements include sans serif typefaces, asymmetrical grid layouts, far right or left aligned text, and a preference for photography. Despite its name, Swiss design actually originated in Russia, Germany, and the Netherlands in the 1920s, with the grandfather of Swiss design, Ernst Keller. However, it was with the help of Swiss designers Armin Hoffmann and Joseph Müller-Bruckmann that the style became mainstream in the 1950s. The style extends on the Bauhaus movement, with the need for form to follow function, in a time where design was becoming more prevalent in day-to-day life. Swiss design also emphasises the need for invisible design, using subversive ways to guide the viewer. Ernst Keller is quoted as saying, "The solution to the design problem should emerge from its content." Nowadays, Swiss design is incorporated in the fundamentals of how we design. One area in which it is majorly relevant is poster design. The Swiss approach to hierarchy and functionality provides the perfect foundation for posters, whose main function is to quickly and effectively communicate information. Another way it is used across design mediums is in layout designs. Magazines utilise Hoffmann's grid system to ensure clean, functional page layouts. A designer who had a large influence on the modernisation of the Swiss design style is Wolfgang Weingart. Wolfgang, born in Germany during World War II, was a trained typographer, and his need to create with his hands drew him into the area of graphic design. He met Hoffmann in 1963 and enrolled in Basel School of Design the following year. In a period where Swiss design was beginning to become stale and rigid, Wolfgang provided a refreshing change. Where Swiss design was rather methodical, Wolfgang's process was highly experimental. He would often manipulate textures and type over and over using different methods, beginning initially with a handprint, then taking it to the darkroom, then to the computer and back again. This drive to pull Swiss design towards subjectivity rather than objectivity was the revival it needed, and as Weingart put it himself, it invites engagement. Despite the rule-breaking aspects of Weingart's work, it was the underlying components of traditional Swiss design, such as grid layouts and simple forms, that keep the viewer grounded and the design informative. Form can be defined as any three-dimensional shape that occupies space. It encompasses all visual and structural aspects of a shape. Form is first and foremost a way to visually communicate, otherwise known as a visual syntax tool. Form applies to almost all areas of design and art, from furniture, architecture, fashion, and product design. One of the first to emphasise the connection between form and function was Louis Sullivan, who penned the now globally recognised quote, "Form follows function." This quote summarises his philosophy that the form of an object should exist in relation and response to its purpose. An architect famous for his exquisite use of form is Frank Lloyd Wright, a world-renowned architect who has designed 1,114 buildings, bringing 532 to life. Some of his most famous pieces include the Guggenheim Museum and Falling Waters. Wright spent his early years as an architect employed by none other than Louis Sullivan, until Sullivan discovered Wright had been working outside of his contract and he was fired. Despite their differences, it is clear that Sullivan's design philosophies had a lasting impact on Wright's iconic style, in particular, his ideas surrounding function and form. On a surface level, Wright's work appears to follow Sullivan's belief that form follows function. One example in which we see this is in his house Falling Waters. Following its construction, Wright was quoted saying that no house should ever be on a hill or on anything. It should be of the hill, belonging to it. Hill and house should live together, each the happier for the other. With the focus on creating a harmonious integration of the house and its environment, Wright decided to include horizontal cantilevers. These sections of the buildings extend out from the central structure of the house. This creates a merging of the surrounding exterior and the surrounding forest that would not be possible if the house held a traditional form. However, Wright has been quoted as saying that the philosophy of form following function has been misunderstood, and instead stated that form and function should be one, joined in a spiritual union. This combination of form and function can be seen in his design of the Guggenheim Museum, implementing a continuous upward spiral ramp. This was an obvious departure from the traditional format of museums, especially for the times. Wright experienced almost immediate backlash regarding the design, with critics claiming it was inhospitable to the art being displayed, thus its form was interfering with its function. However, in an open letter written by Wright himself near the time of his death, he claims that the decision to create the spiralling ramp was to make the building and painting a beautiful symphony such as never existed in the world of art before. By considering the form and function together, Wright successfully combined the two sums to create an experience greater than its parts. Within all areas of design and art, form plays a fundamental part in the visual communication with the audience. However, when taking the purpose and functionality of a piece into consideration, both form and function can combine to create something more.